Hello everybody, Dokkan Assets here. Today we are back with another Dokkan Battle animation analysis video. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought we were going to be getting this unit yesterday, to be honest. I was going to make a video yesterday, but I decided against it. But it's alright, Dokkan gave us the unit today, and oh my gosh, was it worth the wait. I am very excited to talk about the brand new Int LR Super Saiyan Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks. I was really hoping that these guys' animations would be good because obviously this is super hype. Honestly, having any card where it's just a bunch of characters teaming up is always pretty exciting, I'm not gonna lie. Really, no matter what movie it's from or, you know, what they kind of take from, it's just really cool seeing a bunch of characters team up, right? And obviously Trunks and Vegeta and Goku do fight together in the movie, but not as, like, cohesively as in these animations. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. Obviously we're going to watch them through one time, and then we will obviously go through them piece by piece. First of all, I'm so glad they added that in there before anything, because I literally said on Twitter the other day, I don't know how they would complete it, or how they would add it in rather, but I really hope that they add the funny blue Vegeta scene, and they did, so I'm very happy about that. Dude, go back. If this ain't one of the most raw shots in the game, I don't know what is, dude. Oh my gosh, this is gas. If you can't tell, I am a pretty big fan of these animations. I will tell you, when I took a look at these for the first couple times, there's definitely some things in them that I think could be improved for certain, but I think overall, they're really cool. And not to mention, right, obviously every animation where a bunch of characters team up, like I said in the beginning, is just really cool looking. So yeah, obviously these guys have a intro, they have two super attacks, because of course they're an LR, and they have an active skill. I will say, in terms of the kind of quality of their animations, right, with a couple of things that I'll kind of explain throughout the video are some things that maybe they could improve upon. They definitely seem to be at that quality level of the usual Carnival LR status, if not maybe a little bit above that, to be honest. The active skill is also really cool. Obviously, it is Goku charging the Spirit Bomb, and you have Trunks and Vegeta trying to take down the enemy at the same time. By the way, this is really cool with the perspective. We'll talk about this when we actually get to it. There's so many cool things they do in this active skill, from this part where they fly by Goku and Vegeta to the way that Goku moves here. Oh my gosh, dude, so many cool things. The only thing that is a little bit unfortunate, I will say, about this animation is that, for one, I know for a fact that Goku did not... that does not look correct with how he punched 13 in the movie, but then again, also the sprites kind of don't really help, because, of course, you know, it's hard to make the sprite look accurate when we only have 5 different sprites for the enemy to get hit. But they also did not include Gumku. If you guys are familiar, obviously, the AGA LR Super Saiyan Goku has that scene where Goku shows his guns and he's like gritting his teeth really close up, which is, of course, an iconic shot from the movie. Sorry, choking on my own spit right here. But with that being said, unfortunately, that shot is not included in this LR. So that's okay, right? It's not a big deal. I think that that would have really put this LR even more over the top. But maybe they kind of wanted a way to distinguish this guy from the AGL one. And as you can see, I do actually have the DBZ World video pulled up of the Goku here, because we will talk about, when we get to the new units animations, they actually did take some stuff from this guy's animations, which is really interesting. So let's go ahead and go back to the beginning. By the way, as per usual, as I like to preface these videos with, oh, not 2x speed. I'm no means, or by no means rather, a animation professional or animator or anything like that. I just look at these Dokkan animations for fun, and obviously, since I data mine the assets all the time and look at these animations all the time, I have a pretty good idea of what makes a good Dokkan animation. Now let's go ahead and hop into this. By the way, if you guys enjoy the video, don't forget to like and sub. Let's get into it, baby. So first of all, we have the intro with, of course, oh my gosh, dude, I'm so glad that they included this scene. Obviously, the ice breaking apart, which looks really good, and of course, cutting to the funny blue Vegeta scene. This is obviously one of the most iconic scenes from the movie, and I'm sure it also helps it, of course, you know, TFS definitely helped popularize this scene with the, you know, for thousands of years I lay dormant. So that's pretty cool that they included it here. And obviously they have Vegeta come through the blue, which looks awesome. I really, really like the way that this Vegeta asset looks, by the way. Super clean. But yeah, I really like that they have this little beginning part, by the way. This is something that is definitely a piece to take note of here, although it's super simple, right? You have this little bit here, right, where Vegeta's arms are crossed, and it's quite literally for a frame that you can see that his arms uncross, or more like 4 or 5 frames there. You can see that his arms begin to uncross like that, right? And then it goes into the impact frame. That is huge. And I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, but that type of thing is what makes these animations feel so much more lifelike, so much better, so much more anime accurate, all that good stuff, right? Having those little bit of extra details to really make you feel like the animation's cooking. So then, of course, we have it transition into the shot of Vegeta powering up with his hair already spiked up. I mean, he usually is. But very cool aura effect, obviously, with the kind of yellow swirling around him, right? The electricity looks great, the aura looks great, and you do have Vegeta's arms move a slight bit there, which is really, really cool. And you have the aura dissipate before, dude, this impact frame! Are you kidding me, dude? Look at this. Look at how amazing this looks. This is insane. Anyway, very, very cool with all the different pieces at play here. And then, of course, you have... Oh, that shot is gas! Very, very cool, obviously, kind of having it flash like that. And then, of course, transitioning into Super Saiyan Vegeta, which looks cool. I like the little pulse effect. And the lighting, very, very Dragon Ball Z-esque in the way that Super Saiyan was animated at this time. Looks fantastic. They did a very, very good job with it. I love the little, like, smoke effects coming around, too. So, of course, Vegeta's aura pouring out everywhere. And you have this shot of Trunks looking on, which is really cool. Very, very nice movement on the hair, by the way. I have to say, this is some of the most natural hair movement I feel like I've seen in Dokkan. It looks really good. Maybe except for Trunks' one bang there in the front. I don't know what's up with this bang right here. It's, like, weirdly disconnected from the rest, but you have Trunks fly up into the sky, which looks pretty good. I do like, again, the little bit of minimal movement that they have on him as he kind of flies up. And is there a shadow behind him? There is. I didn't even notice that the first time I watched that. If you look behind Trunks, you can see there's actually a shadow on the wall as he moves up. That's really cool. So with Trunks' power-up, it's a lot more simple than Vegeta's, but it does still look really good, right? They have Trunks get into position here of obviously the ki pouring out of him for the aura. Very nice impact frame there. And then, of course, the rocks and ice breaking apart with Trunks powering up, which looks awesome. Even though it is a little bit far away, still a very, very nice looking shot. I love all the movement on his clothes and his hair, too. Of course, this is a pretty well-remembered shot, I feel like. When I first saw this shot of Goku in these animations, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I remember that from the 13 movie. This particular shot of Goku, I don't know why I feel like it's so memorable, but it just sticks out in my head. Anyway, it's cool that they included it. Obviously, Goku kind of ducks down, and then you have the impact frame of Green Ku, then followed by the Super Saiyan, which kind of looks like Super Saiyan 2 in the beginning, to be honest, and then it kind of goes out. It's weird, like, sometimes like this, it looks like Super Saiyan 2, and sometimes like this, it looks like Super Saiyan 1, because obviously Super Saiyan 2, the spikes, there's a lot more in his hair, right? They're a lot more, like, concentrated, where Super Saiyan 1 doesn't have as much, and it's kind of a lot more big and poofy and floofy. But anyway, I love the electricity. I love all of the effects on this. It looks really, really good. I didn't even notice that rock that flies at your face. This is like those videos of trying to trick you with something cute, and then like a spider will jump on the camera or something. That's like what that rock is, I swear. Goku's face, I will say here, is definitely a little bit weird, but it's not really on the screen for too long, so I suppose it's not that big of a deal, right? Obviously, with Goku kind of powering up here, the aura kind of dissipating a little bit around him before obviously they have the impact frame here. Whoo! Hold on. That one in between is really, really good. I need to go back to that. So you have these power-up ones. That one is super cool. Dude, impact frames are so sick. So yeah, then we have Goku stands up, which again looks really, really good. I like the way that it's animated. I like these kind of like, even though it's a little small, they're a little bit thick, but they're not too thick for the lines, right? Looks really good. And then, of course, you have the ice breaking apart, which, of course, because Vegeta's still in the ice, right? He breaks the iceberg there. And then it is a little bit of a shame that they do kind of just cut But this may be how they do it in the movie, so if that is the case, I won't get on Dokkan's case too much. But they basically just go back from Vegeta, right, to show all three of them powering up, which is cool, because this is obviously an iconic shot from the movie, with the three of them kind of in those bubbles of ki. So that is pretty cool that they included that. Dude, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that this particular shot is in the 12 ki super attack, because obviously with this is a shot that you'll be seeing over and over and over again, because of course, you know, obviously with a unit's additional attack, you're always seeing the 12 ki super attack. So that is dope that they added this to the 12 ki. I am always a proprietor of saying that I feel like the 12 ki super the 12 ki super should always be better than the 18 ki, even though it is usually obvious, or the opposite. I'm getting tripped up by these guys. I'm way too excited right now. The 18 key, excuse me, oh my gosh. Dude, I can't compose myself right now. Is usually better than the 12 key, right? Because obviously it's supposed to be the big boy animation. It's the animation that's harder to get. But if the 12 key is better, it's the one that you're seeing more, because you're getting the additional attacks more. So I always prefer when the 12 key is better, and I guess technically it's easier to get, but I guess it's not really hard to get the 18 key. I mean, I guess it depends on what team you're running, but neither here nor there. Obviously, this shot looks really good. I love the way the three of them kind of slide together there. That is a really, really cool shot. And then, of course, we have them stand up for just a moment. I'm glad that they let this linger, because it is such a nice shot. And then we have their card art appear. I will say, very interesting on the card art. Let me actually pull this up real quick. When we got the initial teaser, I was saying that I was thinking that these are probably going to be the card arts for the unit, which obviously are some cards from the DBS card game. And interestingly enough, none of these are actually the card art for the LR, at least. Obviously, we'll have to see when it comes to the SSR and the TUR when the data download actually comes out. But by golly, I still really like this card art a lot, even though it is definitely not what I was expecting, right? It still kind of gives me the same feeling as this card, which obviously is a super cool art, right? Because they're all three just kind of stanced up here, and they are obviously a little bit more animated here. Of course, this is supposed to be referencing the active skill, which we'll get to in a little bit. Interestingly enough, though, obviously in the active skill, Goku's shirt is ripped off by that point, so it's kind of weird seeing him with the shirt on, to be honest with you. But still a very cool card art, and again, I guess it will be to be determined when the data download comes out what the actual SSR and TUR art looks like. But we then move on to the next section of the 12 key, which is pretty cool. You have Vegeta move down a little bit here, right? Before obviously he's moving his body back, and the screen flashes white to have the aura surround him. And of course, the sort of lighter yellow changes to a little bit of that orange for Super Saiyan, with Vegeta flying forward, which is a really, really cool touch. Same thing happens to Trunks, right? He obviously leans forward. You have the aura pop up. And then, of course, he flies away, right, with Goku just kind of standing there and powering up. My boy's doing his thing. He's strutting his stuff, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, then obviously Goku puts his arms up and it powers up, which looks really good. And you have Vegeta come in for Barrage. Now, I will say, you guys know when it comes to these Barrage attacks, I'm usually not the biggest fan of when they do it kind of far away like this. It's not the best for this one, but it's certainly not the worst. I do like that they actually try and make it a little bit more animated, rather than just having it be like two PNGs, you know, transfer between one punch and then another. They actually have some pretty good movement on Vegeta and Trunks to make them feel like they're actually fluidly punching. And not to mention with Trunks, he even has a little bit of like a blur kind of on his hair, it sort of looks like, to, you know, kind of emphasize how fast he's turning. So I do like this, and I really like how Trunks actually joins up with him as well. I do think it looks pretty cool. But yeah, then they obviously both hit him away, which is cool. A little bit of anime speed lines as well to sort of represent him obviously flying pretty far. And then you have Goku. I will say this is a little bit weird, only because I think first of all his nose looks a little bit too big and you can't really see his mouth, which is already kind of trippy. But it is weird because it's like he's supposed to be standing, I think, but it kind of looks like he's floating, right? So having his legs move like this just looks a little bit strange. And obviously the asset just kind of looks a little bit like almost out of place, I feel like, with the rest of what's there. Again, I feel like maybe the lines would have been a little bit more beneficial to not have as thick this time for the quality of the asset that they have on screen here. But I digress. You have the white flash, which is cool because that actually provides the transition for this, right, with Goku flying off in the aura rather than cutting between shots. Yes, Dokkan, do more of this. I love it when they do cool transitions like this and not just cut between the shots or fade between the assets. This is so much better because it's a cool looking transition and it doesn't take you out of the scene. It's great. Anyhow, obviously Goku flies up into the sky, and I will say this part is definitely a little bit janky, right? I feel like this was the first thing that I saw that really kind of stuck out to me as like, whoa, hey there, partner. So Goku appears, right, basically out of thin air, right? It would have been a little bit cooler if they would have had some like kind of effects of him like actually coming out of the aura rather than just right into existence, you know? But obviously he comes back. And they do have another flash to kind of have the aura dissipate, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, the hair doesn't really gradually change color, or they don't have the hair color change when he just gets in the flash, right? They have it wait a little bit until the aura dissipates a tiny bit, but then they just pop it again, which is a bit of a shame. And not to mention, they just pop the shading right away too, which is kind of a little bit jarring for sure. But I do feel like his pose is kind of a little bit weird that he comes out on, and then not to mention the pose that he hits here, right? They sort of just twist this asset, right? Which I will say, very weird choice to have it be lighter and then darker again and then lighter again. I guess they're just trying to match the lighting, but I don't know. It's a little bit weird. With this pose, though, it is nice that at least they do have Goku's arm kind of move back a little bit when he is kind of coming closer to the camera. But I feel like this pose is so stale. It feels a little bit awkward to me with like Goku stance up like this. I don't know. And then when Goku gets to hear, brother, what is up with that mouth? My boy's mouth is elongated. I'm going to assume again that this was something in the movie, right? Obviously, unfortunately, because with the new animation analysis videos that obviously I drop right when the unit comes out, you know, we don't have the comparison right away because obviously, you know, this unit's stuff just came out like 40 minutes ago at the time of this recording. So, you know, I don't have the comparison on hand to know if this is directly from the movie. But again, not going to give this as an L to Dokkan until we have the full comparison. But nonetheless, though, the Ki Blast does still look pretty good. I will say, though, Goku's pose still looks a little bit awkward here. And I do like the aura sort of surrounding him. It is cool that it once again powers him up. This definitely is a little bit of awkward movement, though. I remember when I looked at this first, right, I kind of thought, ooh, that is a little weird. Because they do kind of move his arm forward, but it's also like just tilting him back. I don't know. It's a little weird. And then they just immediately cut to this shot. Not the biggest fan of this part of the animation, to be honest with you. I do like the blue kind of sprouting off, though. And I will say the lighting effect is actually pretty cool. With you can see like the kind of pulsating lighting, right? Kind of shine on Goku every so often. That is pretty cool, I will admit. Then you have the attacks fly down towards the enemy before blowing up against the ice, which is pretty cool. And I thought that's where the animation ended. But no, we have more, which is pretty cool. So Trunks stands up, right? Obviously gets into position. And this right here is literally ripped directly from the Android 13 movie. If it looks a little bit weird with how Trunks was kind of moving forward there for a moment, it is literally ripped right from the movie. It looks exactly like that in the film. So it doesn't surprise me that it looks like that in the animation. Again, when it comes to Dokkan, they try and be as anime as accurate as possible nowadays. So sometimes when the anime has something that looks a little bit off in the shot, right? Dokkan will emulate that because they're just going off the source material. It's weird. Sometimes they try and improve upon it, and sometimes they just take from the source material. Sometimes maybe, I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm not the developers. Maybe they just don't see it as something that could be improved upon. They're just like, yeah, we're just referencing the source material, which I also get that at the same time, you know, just maybe not even thinking about it. But I would also rather them, you know, reference the source material and it look like that than try and change it and then have it look goofy. So overall, I think it looks good. Again, it is a direct reference to the movie. So it looks pretty good. And I do like the actual zoom in here, right? First of all, you're going to hear that hit the floor. I'm sorry. I was playing with a chip clip that I have. I got a bag of chips before this video. I do like the kind of transition where for changing his pose, right, instead of actually trying to move the assets, they have the kind of just white sort of distract you from like really taking note that the pose change happened, obviously, even though you still see it, but your mind just kind of doesn't register it as much. And this little zoom in is actually pretty well done. I will say they picked a perfect spot for the asset to change from here to here. A lot of other SAs don't do a good job with this, to be 100% honest with you, where they have like a change of the assets like this, right, where it goes from a smaller one to a larger one, a more high quality one, and sometimes they kind of miss the mark on where that transition should happen, and it's a lot more noticeable, and it's like a lot more jarring in the actual animation when you're watching it. But this one, I feel like they did a really good job because it's pretty fluid in my eyes, and I like that they have his eyes expand a little bit too, with all the slashes looking pretty cool, and of course the enemy exploding behind Trunks, which is awesome, obviously referencing his fight with one of the androids in the movie. Very, very cool. Alright, so we have this shot with everybody stands up. First of all, I will say Goku's hair looks a little weird. It kind of looks like it's drawn by like a different artist compared to how Trunks and Vegeta look, which is a little weird, but this shot is really, really nice. And it's kind of funny. This is obviously just the 18 key, but they still animate Vegeta's mouth, at least just closing there, which is kind of funny. Like, it's not like him speaking, but it is him speaking? I don't know. It's weird that it's just the mouth closing, but still happy that they animated it regardless. And oh, Nelly, what a quick transition to the card art. You know, again, I didn't mention it in this video, but I mentioned it in a lot of previous videos. They've definitely, I swear they have to be doing it on purpose, where they have an almost intro-esque animation before they play the card art, right? They did it with this guy with the 12 key having this little beginning part with the three of them stands up there, and obviously with this one they have this. Maybe it's not even supposed to be something like an intro animation. I guess it's just the like beginning of it is just kind of introducing you to the scene, but that is kind of what an intro animation does. So I don't know, you know, it's just a way to reference what they're doing, I suppose. Holy cow, Vegeta impact frame, hello. So we transition from the white. Oh my gosh, this is really quick. What is this on the screen for? 1, 2, 3 frames? Wow, 3 frames you have this shot of Trunks and Vegeta, which I will say, cool that they have Trunks move up a little bit, right? Obviously, again, minimal movement is always appreciated even when it's not necessary. You have Vegeta bring his arms forward, and of course you have this really cool impact frame. It kind of looks like he's standing on the ground with that impact frame, but you obviously have him flying forward, which looks good again. The stylization of the assets here is so good. It looks so much like the Android 13 movie, which is awesome. But yeah, Vegeta flies towards the camera. I kind of wish they would have had a turn of the camera here instead of cutting, but that's okay. Also, my boy got the crimson chin going on right now. His chin looks a little big. Again, that might just be because they're referencing the movie, though. But we have Vegeta fly forward and then punch Android 13, which looks really good. I will say, with this kind of barrage here, again, you guys know that they aren't always my favorite types of animation when it comes to how Dokkan does it, but I feel like this is pretty well done. I like the first one. It feels like it has a lot of impact, and the movement on Vegeta throughout the rapid fire punches is really good. And I like that they actually have him speed up a little bit at the end. That's pretty cool because it's like bam, 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 right? He speeds up towards the end. That is a really cool little touch there. I like that a lot. Obviously, with that final hit, you have the impact frame, which is really cool, right? Obviously, then pushing the enemy away. Trunks flying in looks really good. See, this camera angle is peak right here. Look at this. You have Trunks fly in super quickly. Again, a very good asset change of the far away one to the close-up one, right? Obviously, going past Trunks' face. And then it's so quick transitioning into Trunks coming from the bottom of the screen. It feels a lot more fluid than how Vegeta's looked. You have Trunks then fly for a moment, which I love that they have the clouds, right? First of all, they have the little cloud kind of fly by in the beginning, right there, which is cool. It kind of feels like he's piercing through the clouds, and obviously the clouds moving quickly behind, or under him, I guess, more like, is really cool. They also blur Trunks when he actually zooms forward, which is really cool, right? You can see there. Right? Obviously, they kind of give him that little bit of blur effect to, you know, imply how fast he's moving. Meeting up with the enemy. Dude, the motion is like, this is the type of thing why I always say that these Dokkan animations that are bad shouldn't be bad. Or like things that need movement that are really small assets or something like that need to have it, and there is no excuse. Because look at this. Trunks at the size of an ant, okay? You could fit that in the palm of your hand. He has that little asset change there, right? That little pose change, rather, where obviously he kind of goes down to be sort of meeting with 13. I will say, unfortunately, in this case, it does look a little bit janky of this animation here, only because of the 13 sprite, obviously because it's pretty big. Again, that's kind of more of a sprite L. Also, 13 is a lot bigger than them, but definitely not this big. This is a little bit egregious, right, for how big he is compared to, you know, Trunks there. But still. Nonetheless, though, you can see that Trunks is actually moving, right? They have Trunks move a little bit, and he actually changes pose there a little bit, too, and continues moving towards 13. It's nothing crazy, but it's still there, and by golly, if this animation can do it, then I don't understand why other animations can't do it, because, man, if they can do it at this small, right, even though it's not a lot of crazy movement, again, it's really just a couple of pose changes and they're still having the character move in the background. I feel like if they put in the effort for it like that, where they don't just have him standing there for a little bit, dude, they can do it. They can do it. I know they can. Alright, so we transition into the burning attack here, which is really cool. I like that Trunks kind of brings his hands together. It's kind of funny. You can see they sort of made the fingers a little flat. So that when they meet up, and it feels a little bit more natural. I do like Trunks' hands, by the way. When they actually like meet up for the attack, they kind of go boing, which is a nice little effect to obviously kind of have his hands like, you know, pressing together with like the impact of how hard he's hitting his fingers together, right, to form the burning attack. That is pretty cool. Definitely like that a lot. But yeah, then we have this right here, which looks cool. You kind of have the colors change a little bit, with obviously the flash being there. And then, of course, the attack being formed in his hands, or in his fingers, more like, before being launched at the enemy. And that bit of perspective, dude, oh my gosh. Look at this transition. So you have it come at the screen, right? It covers the screen in yellow. Bam, enemies right there, and it's going the other way. And you're sort of first-person POV Trunks, because you can see the aura kind of surrounding where you would be standing, or where Trunks would be standing. Dude, that's so cool. That is awesome. Love it when they do transitions like that. We have Android 13 then flying up towards the sky for Goku again. Kind of an awkward pose for Goku there. This is like almost the same pose as the thing that he had for the 12 key super attack when he moved back. It's not exactly the same, but it still looks pretty awkward. But you do have, again, more of these little clouds, which is pretty cool. I will say the little cloud animation of it kind of zooming by the screen. That's pretty neat. And they do zoom into Goku a little bit before zooming out, which I like that they have it transition this way, right? They kind of have it zoom into Goku's back before having him turn. The only thing that is kind of yucky about this, to be honest, is that the perspective doesn't really make sense, because you would think the camera would be then moving around Goku to look at the front of him, because it doesn't really look, or I guess it doesn't really feel, I don't know. I'm not sure the quite way to describe why it doesn't look that good, but it just feels off with Goku turning his body immediately and then 13 being in the same place. Like, I guess he could still technically be looking at 13, but here it looks like his eyes, right, are looking directly at Android 13, but for this shot, it looks like he's just kind of looking off to the side, right? It doesn't really look like that he's staring at 13. That's just kind of how it looks like to me. I don't know. I think it's just all about the perspective, right? It's kind of like when you pose action figures together. You want the characters to be looking at like they're, you know, they're looking in each other's eyes, basically, not like they're kind of looking off to the side. I don't know. But either way, though, it just looks a little bit off to me. Like, this almost looks like Goku's looking at Vegeta off screen here rather than here where he looks like he's looking at 13. Regardless, though, I do like that they have this try to kind of zoom in like this. I don't think it's as successful as it could be, right? Because they kind of have it zoom in to the side of Goku, and then they immediately cut to this shot where it kind of comes back in from the side. I definitely feel like the camera work could have been a little bit better there. I mean, camera work, air quotes, obviously, because, you know, it's animations, but I'm not really sure what else to call it. I guess just the perspective, right? Although, again, I would much prefer something like this than just hard cutting. So, I'll definitely take it where I can get it. But we have the Kamehameha charge up in the sky. Again, it just feels a little bit like awkward with the pose that Goku's in. I don't know, it just feels a little bit weird with how he's standing. But I do like that the Kamehameha for the transition, as it kind of grows in his hand, right? They have it go big. They have the dust, or I guess it would just be like the air, the clouds, more like it, right? Obviously kind of make a sort of tube around 13. And then you can actually see, again, they kind of continue with the little tube sort of meme here. And they obviously have it so that, right, it kind of forms around him. And then after that, it's obviously shown that Goku has already launched the Kamehameha. So that is really cool. And again, a great way to transition. And they have Goku kind of fade back in too, with obviously him being surrounded in the blue light from the Kamehameha. And this animation ain't finished yet. I thought that was the end myself, but no, it isn't. As you can see, right, Vegeta then brings his hand up, which is really, really cool, right? And you can even see the little bit of motion lines right there next to his thumb. And you then have him bring his hand towards the screen. Again, gas transition, dude. Oh my gosh. Look at this. You're focused on his hand, right? It's kind of moving to the side. Bam. They transition into this shot where he's over here. Dude, these transitions are so good for this unit. Oh my gosh. The hair looks pretty good for Vegeta. It does kind of look like two separate pieces though, which is a little bit weird. But the energy blast forms in his hand, which looks really good. I love the electricity, the lighting effects on his face, and his armor looks really good. You then get this shot from the back of him launching it off. Again, which they kind of changed to... Ooh, impact frame. They kind of changed it to a little bit of a more low quality asset, but it's still fine. And obviously it's on screen for so quick that the launch, you know, then still looks fine. And then, of course, you have it crash into the enemy, which is cool that they end on this little screen of Trunks and Vegeta obviously looking at the explosion, which is awesome, right? That should end up being the KO screen, I believe, as well, so that's pretty cool. We'll say the only thing that is a little bit weird about this is, I know this is a definite nitpick, right? I'll be the first to tell you that. But why does it go from like a little bit more of a circle shape here to an oval? Really, really weird. That like oval shape feels a little bit off. It almost feels like the footage is like squished or something like that, even though it's not. Either way, though, I think I'm still personally a fan of the 12 key super attack more. Maybe it's just the beginning, because honestly, a lot of the transitions, right, the part with Trunks for the 18 key is really good. Vegeta's part is also pretty good. I don't know, I'm a little bit torn on which one I like. I think it's just that particular... Dude, I'm literally getting so caught up. I'm actually so excited, I'm not gonna lie. This particular shot is just like, whew, so peak, dude. But a lot of the animation in the 18 key, I feel like, is better. Alright, so now we get to the big kahuna. We get to the 18 key super attack. Or 18 key super attack. The active skill, rather. Dude. This is awesome. So, with this attack, right, we have Goku stanced up doing the Spirit Bomb right above the water here, right? Of course, classic shot from the 13 movie. And we then, of course, have Goku begin to gather some energy. But before that, we're going to take a little bit of a zoom in. And by golly, dude, the transitions are so good. They didn't just cut to zooming in on him like they've done for some other animations where they just cut the zoom. No, they actually zoom in, which is awesome, right? You can see Goku kind of gets blurred a little bit here, too, to kind of represent how it would look when he's zooming in, and then they focus the camera on him over here. That is awesome. That is so cool. Then they go back a little bit. I love the reflection as well. I didn't even notice that they actually implemented that. That is awesome. So you have Vegeta fly in here, right, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, the beginning part is just kind of like a static PNG, right, where he kind of comes in a little bit here. But then, of course, after that, they do transition into this one. But to be fair, in full speed, he does come in pretty quickly. So I suppose you're not really going to be taking that much notice of it. But with Vegeta coming towards the camera, I really, really like this with obviously his arms there. It looks really nice, right? The asset looks good. And I like they kind of have it linger for a second, right? And not just fly past the screen, moving his hair a little bit too, which is nice. And after Vegeta then goes past the screen, right? Which is really cool. And at the end, I saw that there. Where was it? Yep, they blur him for just a frame. Just a couple frames. 2 frames there, it looks like, right? 1, 2, yep. 2 frames, they blur him a little bit, which is cool to, again, kind of show how fast he's moving past the camera. And then same thing with Trunks, right? Except interestingly enough, I feel like his is a lot better because Vegeta changes his pose, but Trunks keeps the same pose the entire time as he's coming in, right? And they don't have his hair move at first, but then once it gets to a little bit more close up, right, then they actually have his hair begin to move. But because it's the same pose, right, it doesn't feel as jarring, and you can see they kind of change the asset there. Or maybe that is just a high quality asset. But that's why it looks so weird from far away. Again, I always prefer if they're going to use the high quality asset and then make it smaller, right? They do it this way where they don't make a small asset and then increase the size so it looks disgusting when it's close up. I would much rather them do it this way where obviously, you know, the character has the big asset for the whole time and then it just looks worse when they're smaller and then it gets better when they get closer. Because obviously it just makes more sense. Why would you not want the closer shot to look better? Because the smaller character is going to look worse anyway because it's farther away. But obviously this then looks cool, right? With Trunks then close to the camera and having him, again, all of his little assets move and stuff like that, right? The coat, the hair, before he actually moves past the camera too. Again, also having a little bit of a blur effect on him. Yeah, I kind of wish that they would have done this for... Does his sword move a little bit? They do. His sword and his fingers move up a little bit too. Interesting. I really wish they would have done that for Vegeta, because that would have made the Vegeta section look so much better, rather than having him come in like this. I guess it wouldn't have made as much sense for him to fly in with this pose right away, but I don't know, man. It definitely would have looked a little bit better, because Trunks' looks so much better than Vegeta's. But, again, definitely a little bit of a nitpick. I love the way that the Spirit Bomb is animated here. Oh my gosh. It looks really, really good. I love the little bit of sparkles. They don't do this all the time for the Spirit Bomb, where they have the little kind of sparkle effect on it. So I like when they do that. It looks really cool. And the actual energy for the Spirit Bomb looks amazing as well. Unfortunately, Stinky Sprite moment, get that disgusting dude off my screen. You cannot see Vegeta's kind of come up here because obviously he's blocking the camera. But you do have, finally, once he is technically behind the camera, you can see that Vegeta had this attack charged up, moves his hand a little bit, brings it forward, right, to then fire the blast right against 13. And it's almost more of like a punch. With the blast in hand, or just like kind of smacking him with it. I will say it is a little bit unfortunate because it does look a little bit weird with how far Vegeta comes forward here, but it's not too bad. Again, in full motion, it's alright. I do like this little explosion though, with obviously the Ki Blast kind of exploding against Android 13, which is really, really cool. They do a little bit of a fade here, which is a bit unfortunate because obviously, you know, the transitions have been so gassed this entire time. It's a shame for them to just kind of fade like this, right? When I feel like they could have done a much better job of having the enemy sprite kind of breaking through the explosion to kind of fly forward, because they've done that on so many other animations, even with the Stinky Sprites. So it is a little bit of a shame to see it just kind of fade away like that. But we then have Trunks come in to get his attack. I do like that Vegeta is obviously in the position of basically how he would have been, you know, after using that attack. That is pretty cool. But yeah, you have Trunks then slash the enemy. Again, very nice impact frame to kind of represent the slash. And you have Goku in the blue light there with the Spirit Bomb. Obviously the light at the very end, right, really kind of envelops him with the blue, getting super bright. And then of course they have this asset with the glowing blue light in the background, right? And then I will say the one thing that is kind of interesting is that this almost kind of looks like the Spirit Bomb is directly above him, but then it would have to be directly behind him because obviously it's above his head. But then again, it is where he's absorbing it, so... But it still looks cool. But yeah, I love the little bit of the energy effects that they have on here, right? Goku's hair kind of moving a little bit, right? You can actually see it begin to sort of spike up a little bit right here. Yep. You can kind of see that it looks a little bit more normal there. And then at the very end, they have it kind of go up a little bit, right? To then have it transition into the Super Saiyan hair, which I will say, it is a bit of a shame that they don't have the white light cover it up like this, right? Because they have the white light do this, right? Like this shot right here would have been perfect for them to transition between the black and yellow, right? Between the base and the Super Saiyan hair. But it's still pretty cool looking. And obviously Goku himself looks really good in this shot, right? You have all of the energy gathering around him. I love the little bit there, right? Of the little bit of the flare up. And You do have Goku lift his head there, which I do think that that looks pretty good, right? Goku obviously lifting it up. And this little bit of a goofier looking face, it's kind of hard to see here, but they definitely did a good job of kind of covering it up a little bit and not having it be on screen for as long. Now, the interesting thing that I did want to know is I'm sure most of you probably recognize a shot that's going to be in a couple of seconds. However, I did want to note, one thing that is interesting is that this particular sequence, right, from the movie, right, obviously with the original version of this card, they don't do this animation, and they kind of do this one, but obviously it's not exactly the same, right, because of course it's more akin to the shot right here, right, from the very beginning, where Goku is kind of like holding it there. And obviously you can tell that they definitely did a good job giving a little bit of a upgrade as well. Oops, we're on the wrong essay. When it goes to the shot, where is it? Here, right? Obviously it's a little bit more zoomed in on the new version. But the thing that I really want to take a look at is the transformation sequence here, right? Where we obviously just looked at that. If we go to the original version, right, let's put this in the slow speed so it's a little bit easier to take a look at. The base form part is extremely similar. In fact, it almost looks like the exact same assets. But you can tell it is a little bit different because obviously the coloring, right, on base form Goku is a slight bit different, right? And obviously you can tell that the pants are also a little bit different, right? Goku's body is obviously a little bit different. It's of course gonna look the same because it's referencing the same movie, but it is definitely a little bit different. But you can see that when they have Goku's hair transition here, ironically enough, they actually do what I wanted them to do in the new one, which is have the sort of effects cover the hair when he transforms, right? Because then you kind of can't see the transformation, right? Because it's covered up by this, which is kind of ironic. And again, if we go back and look at then when Goku goes Super Saiyan, it is definitely a little bit different, right? It is very, very similar looking because, again, it's from the same movie. But it's definitely not exactly the same. But the interesting thing is this version ends this particular sequence here, right? With the little bit of lights flashing, right? And then Goku just transitions into absorbing the Spirit Bomb right away. Whereas this one actually has him tilt his head up, which is really cool that they added on to that. I really like that they made it, they did more to not just like have it be the original. I mean, obviously it wasn't going to be with Trunks and Vegeta here. But still, right, I like that they made Goku's part a little bit more unique. So if you have both of these units, there's still stuff about them that differentiates them between those two animations. I really, really like that. But anyway, oh my gosh, dude. I freaked out when I saw this. If they keep doing stuff like this is going to be great. Because I feel like this is one of the first times that I've seen Dokkan do something like this. I swear there's another unit that has something kind of similar. If you want to tell me in the comments, feel free. Because I'm definitely trying to remember, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. But a shot like this, where the camera pans past, obviously, Trunks standing there, right? Which looks really good, right? That asset is nice. And I like, again, that they kind of have Trunks be a little bit more... obviously, here, he's very far out, so you can't see him as much. But they blur the ground. Obviously, they have the speed lines, right? Which looks really good. Trunks passing by the screen, right? Then Vegeta, of course, also passed by the screen. And it's cool that they're kind of stanced up from the attacks that they just did, right? Obviously, Trunks has the sword, you know, like he just used it. And Vegeta has his hand out after that Ki Blast. I really, really like this, even though it is just solid PNGs, right? I feel like this is something that Dokkan really hasn't done before. Maybe they've done this once or twice, but I cannot really recall them doing something exactly like this in another SA. So it makes sense to me why it might not be, you know, as like crazy as it could be. Like you could have Trunks standing up and make it not look as much just like a PNG that stands up. This also almost kind of looks like when somebody edits manga panels. That's kind of the feeling that this particular animation gives me with the both of them standing there. I feel like if they want to do stuff like that more, they could definitely improve upon it in the future, but what is there right now is really, really cool. But anyway, I love how the speed lines really make you feel like you're zooming into Goku. And again, dude, oh my gosh, the transitions are so gas. So you have Goku blurred, obviously, because you're zooming towards him. And the way that they transition between the blurry Goku there, right? And then the actual absorption is they have the light flash out until they go to this scene of Goku with obviously the iconic shot of him absorbing the Spirit Bomb, which is really, really cool, right? Obviously, all of the energy going into him. The bright, that's a tongue twister, dude. Holy cow. The bright white and yellow light. There we go. Oh my gosh. Looks really good, right? Obviously enveloping him like this, right? Having it kind of appear everywhere looks fantastic, if I do say so myself, right? I love the way that it kind of envelops the screen. And they use it as a transition to kind of hide the fact that then they have Goku hitting the JoJo pose here with how far his back is, basically. But yeah, this shot of Goku, dude, oh my gosh. It looks so good with Goku coming up to stand. I feel like there is not a frame missing here. It looks so good. They did some definite rotoscoping here where it kind of looks like Goku is 3D almost as he is coming up from being stanced up in that JoJo pose, right? Dude, it's so good, man. Oh my gosh, the fluid movement is crazy. Now, I do want to note regarding this, because obviously this is probably something else that you may have recognized from the original version, right? If we go back and look here, right, obviously they do it a little bit differently with the light kind of being absorbed into Goku right there, with it obviously not having it be above his head and then transitioning into the absorption, right? They kind of show the, you know, blast sort of like going into him in a little bit of a different way. But this shot is almost the same. It's virtually the same, right? With obviously this. It's kind of interesting. They did this a little bit later on with the yellow particle effects, right? They kind of used it to transition from him absorbing the energy where you couldn't see him into then it being this shot. But for this one, they used it to transition from this to then Goku doing the funny pose. But I can definitely say that the new version of this looks better, I think. You can tell that it is obviously a small bit different, right? It's not too crazy of a difference. And again, obviously it's going to look very similar because, of course, it's literally the same scene. So, of course, it's going to look the same. But I do think that they do the new version a little bit better. And not to mention, even though it still looks good in the old one, and funny enough, that kind of like weird pulsating movement that Goku has where they sort of just squish the asset, they still do the same thing for this one, which is kind of funny. But for this, right, obviously after this happens, they just flash to white and then go to the card art before they then have Goku stanced up, and then obviously he gets the little bit of the yellow light before the funny Gumku scene. But of course, for the new one, right, they actually use the yellow light as a transition into this shot here, which obviously is a little bit different than that original one. And this is pretty cool too, with, of course, you know, the kind of darkness behind Goku, with him glowing, because obviously he just absorbed the energy, right? Goku stands up, flying forward. This shot of him flying forward looks cool. And oh my gosh, dude! It's so cool. Oh, man. The actual fact that they kept that they kept Vegeta and Trunks there, right, as Goku flies forward past them, is such a nice little detail. It might have been a little bit better if they would have changed their pose, because you would have kind of assumed that they would have, like, changed poses by now. It kind of makes him feel like a cardboard cutout almost, but it's still super dope, right? Obviously with Goku flying past the two of them, right, which looks really good. He actually looks amazing here, by the way. Like, holy cow, this is one of the best looking Gokus in Dokkan. I don't know if that's a hot take, but oh man, that is a nice looking asset right there. That is a nice PNG. That is a Dokkan Assets approved PNG right there. Holy cow. I love the way that the aura looks as well. Obviously the hair looks fantastic. And then of course we have this right here, where we then have Goku getting ready to punch 13. Again, unfortunately, a little bit of a cut, but I feel like it's better because you have the yellow background, so your eyes are kind of like still sort of, you're in this like yellow zone, parody of the red zone. But yeah, obviously the transition I feel like feels more sensical because obviously, you know, you're still in that yellow. And the actual punch looks good, right? I think it's animated well enough. It is kind of a shame that the asset sort of just kind of pops here where it just changes position from here to here. I kind of wish that Goku's head wouldn't be as rapid of a movement, right? I wish they would have had a couple frames in between there. But he does wind up the punch. Again, stinky sprite moment with obviously him kind of just going in front of 13 with like teleporting almost. It is cool to see though that the aura is actually around him, because you can see it's not in front of 13, but then it obviously is after he moves in front of him. But again, I'm going to kind of chalk that up to the sprite a little bit. And with this shot, I feel like it's not as bad that they kind of have the pose change, because obviously Goku's kind of whipping his hand around, but it would have still been nice to have a couple of in-between shots there. And then, of course, we have Goku actually throw his fist around, and this is pretty well animated, right, with this part. I will say it is definitely a little bit jarring, though, right? So this looks good, right, with him obviously pulling his fist back. Everything there looks nice. With him obviously punching forward, it's just a little weird going from this to this. I kind of wish there was something more in between, and usually with these kind of shots, I'd be like, oh, well, you know, kind of emphasizes how fast he's moving, because, you know, you're whipping from one scene to another, but I feel like here there could have been a little bit more. Nonetheless, though, you obviously have Goku punch the enemy, and I feel like this punch is really lackluster. It doesn't really feel like it has a lot of impact. I like the kind of end part that Goku has there, and this will end up being a KO screen, which is pretty cool. But I don't think that this is a fault of Goku's or the animations here, right? I mean, he's just a PNG. It can't be his fault, right? I think it's more so just the sprite, because obviously the sprite can't really, like, really react, and they obviously can't have Goku's fist, like, dig into the sprite, right? They can't have it, like, make a dent in his stomach or something like that. So obviously just kind of have it hitting a brick wall just looks a little awkward. And maybe that's even the reason why they animated it with this, where it obviously just kind of goes from here to here with the enemy already flying away and not really having, you know, a transition between those shots. I'm going to kind of chalk that one up to the sprite, to be honest with you, because I feel like that's the problem here. By the way, Goku is so wide. Oh my gosh. But yeah, they do transition from this shot to this shot pretty quickly. I do kind of wish there was a frame in between there. But it is cool that they have that little effect on the punch, and they do actually have a little bit of a blue kind of come over the screen real quick before having this crazy aura in the background here with the enemy fading into the yellow, which is awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the super attack animations for the brand new Carnival LR Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks, all of which being Super Saiyan. I really, really like these animations. I think they are really good. I don't think that they are the best of the year, right? Which, by the way, I'll be making a top 5 best and worst of the year animations for the end of the year, so look out for that. But with that being said, I think these are still really solid. I still think that they look really good. Again, anytime an animation just has a bunch of characters working together like this, they're just always really fun. I think that they did do a good job as well, kind of combining the attacks together to feel like the characters are actually attacking as one group, right? Because of course with this, right, because, you know, they didn't all three kind of like gang up on 13 right at once like this in the movie, you know, they kind of have to splice together some different attacks that they did on different people and, you know, maybe different scenes from Dragon Ball together to kind of make a coherent animation that still feels like it's one, you know, continuous attack. And this animation definitely nails that. I know there's some Dokkan animations, it's not too many, but there are a couple that kind of feel a little bit janky where you can kind of tell they took it from different stuff, but this one definitely feels very coherent and all the characters attacking together. Obviously the animation itself overall is pretty good. Of course there are definitely a couple of things where they could have definitely improved on it a little bit. That shot is so good, dude. Oh my gosh, I can't get over how nice that looks. But with all that being said, right, obviously this is a Carnival LR, and as I've kind of mentioned with almost every Carnival LR, I feel like the Carnival LRs, I always have some kind of little nitpicks and problems with them compared to the Dokkan Fest and even sometimes the Yellow Coin LRs. I mean, obviously we saw Ribrianne and those were pretty good, actually, to be fair. So I suppose the Yellow Coin LRs do fall into that. It kind of depends on which one we're talking about, but I feel like, as per usual with the Yellow Coin LRs, this is definitely, well, not as usual with what I'm about to say. What I was going to say for these guys specifically is, I feel like they are definitely one of the better ones out of the Carnival LRs. But I was going to say, as per usual with the Carnival LRs, I feel like they are lacking for how much of a big deal that Dokkan likes to make the Carnival LRs out to be. And with, you know, how much they're like, oh, they're these super special units that only come back on these specific banners, right? And they're not as common as your Dokkan Fest and stuff like that. I feel like the animation should be even better. Like, I feel like the Carnival LRs, maybe this is a hot take, I don't know. But because they're so much harder to get than regular Dokkan Fest LRs, I feel like they should have animations that are on par, bare minimum. I don't think that's a hot take. But even better, maybe, than Dokkan Fest animations because they're harder to get. But it definitely feels like they still focus on the Dokkan Fest more than they focus on these. But again, with all that being said, these guys are still really good despite the different little issues that I had with them throughout this video. But let me know what you think about these in the comment section below. I would definitely be very, very curious to hear what you guys have to say. I am overall, though, extremely satisfied with how these guys came out. I will definitely be throwing a multi or two for these guys. Obviously, we do have New Year's and anniversary coming up, so of course your boys got to keep some stones in the bank for that. But with these guys being such a cool unit, and obviously, you know, it's always like the Christmas banner. It's just such a fun banner to summon on. I am definitely going to be throwing a multi or two at these guys. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I will catch you guys in the next one. Dokkan Assets out. Psych, gotcha! You thought the video was over, didn't ya? Shout out to one of my boys for sending me this tweet. Obviously, I was recording when this tweet came out, but we actually have the references thanks to the homie Garesh. So thank you, Garesh. Obviously, this tweet will be linked in the description below. But this is the reference that they used for the card art. Let's actually go back to that in the video just to kind of have it on the screen. As you can see, right, obviously, this is the card art that they used in Dokkan, and as you can see here, this is what they referenced from the movie poster. Goku's arms look really elongated in this movie poster, but obviously it's because it's supposed to be the perspective, like your hands are closer, or the camera's closer to his hands, rather, and obviously he's, you know, doing the spirit bomb. So, obviously, Goku looks like that from there. Vegeta as well, I will say, is almost the same pose. It's kind of like flip-flopped, almost, where it's kind of like his fist is the other way and his hand is out like that. Yeah, it's almost like he's flip-flopped. And funny enough, this also kind of looks like the pose that he has in the section where they have it kind of fly by the both of them, right? With this, he has a very similar pose here. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it could certainly be referenced. Yeah, it's definitely not exactly the same. It looks a lot more like how it does with the card art for sure, rather than how it looks for that asset. But I figured it was still worth pointing out. With that being said, though, Trunks obviously is definitely not the same for this particular poster, but I mean, it's just Trunks kind of slashing his sword down. As well, by the way, for the end, interestingly enough, it seems like this particular piece of art here, too, was another piece of reference material that they used for the end of the active skill for this particular shot right here. I think it's actually a couple of frames before that. Oh my gosh, of course, of course I click on the one that's farthest from the one that I'm looking for. Hold on, let me go back a little bit. Yeah. Here, we can go back more. Back to the future, baby. There you go. Right there. Obviously, that is virtually the exact same thing. So, makes sense, right? And again, I do want to note, man, oh man, with, you know, the Stinky Sprite being the Stinky Sprite, this shot would definitely be a lot cooler if 13 was looking like this and not like over here. But anyway, since this tweet was sent my way and obviously it is some references that they used for the animation, I figured I would include it in the video because it's definitely pretty interesting. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Really, really appreciate it. I will actually catch you in the next one. Now, Dokkan Assets out. Peace.